This video I'm going to have a look at this old thing from the Bureau of Meteorology. Yeah, that's where it's from. Digital telemetry system display type 1. Just some bit of old junk. Manufactured by Almos Systems. King Edward Road, Osborne Park, Western Australia. Power supply AC to 260, 47, that's the internal. Not sure if it has a power supply, it's partly in bits, I think. Okay, not sure what I got to with this thing, but I think I was busy powering it up. And yeah, not getting much. So I've only got a very dim display. Ooh, oh, something's flashing. I thought I'd bump something. So this has probably had a lot of hours use and fried it. I'm pretty sure I've got another one of these somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment. But I thought if these had a good display in them, that would be an interesting piece of equipment. It looks like it's possibly going into some sort of test mode or something. Max, semicolon, star, 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 and can't read what that used to say. MTN, don't know. So it's probably some basic mode. I guess we can unplug the main board from it and see if it still goes into that mode. I don't know if I can find any information on this. We might be able to get this. I'd assume the display here does nothing without the being fed an input. That's often the case. I wonder if there's a way of testing, getting this into like a test mode that brings up all the elements. They usually have some way of doing something like that, just a lamp test as they call it. But I don't see anything obvious. We might have to look up the data sheet if I can for these modules and see whether we can do a lamp test. I mean, it's possible something else in this unit is in a bad way. There is a test reset switch or something there. Doesn't do anything more. Look at it. Oh yeah, that does. I think that says min something semicolon star 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 or asterisk 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 slash asterisk asterisk, and you got max semicolon asterisk asterisk asterisk. So that was min. I'm trying to work out what that middle letter was because it's an I minus the bottom bit. That's the remains of an M. That N is barely visible. It probably had those bits running all the time and maybe changed the other segments, but none of them are very bright. But if nothing else, I mean, this was just something I saw. It was only cheap. I thought it might be fun to play with since I haven't seen one of these modules before that I know of. Bit of a specialist kind of thing. A flip alphanumeric display, model 03601-16-020. Manufacturing date 9213, so it's probably the 13th week or something, 1992, so it's ancient. Do not remove or install connector with power on. An even power pin engagement with damaged circuit. Industrial Products Division, Industrial Electronics Engineers, Lamona Avenue, Van Nuys, News, California. So this is back from Silicon Valley when it actually was Silicon Valley. There's some sort of like a price tag in there. Maybe that was just in the factory to track it. Does that come off easily? What on earth I got here? Oh, it's riveted on. That is probably an inverter to run the high voltage, or relatively high voltage. I've got a big NEC chip in it. So that's probably a bulletproof thing like these other buffer ICs or something. I think it's UCN 5810. What are they? Might read it the right way up will help. UCN 5010AF, I think. Yeah, 5010. So 6 of those. There's some other 74LS10, 74LS00, 165, 00 again. 6 megahertz crystal. And I probably don't even need to remove this from the front panel, but maybe I should, because it might as well dismantle this thing, and I think the case can just go in the scrap metal, even though potentially this 19-inch rack stuff could be good for something. See if we can slot this thing. Oh, they just fall out. Here it comes. Wow, that's quite a display tube. And there's basically no other components in there. So that's pretty good. You can actually just unplug this tube by the look of it. Well, theoretically. Yeah, that's definitely IC socket type arrangements. So even if that wears out, you could actually replace it. Now, can I find which ones are the filaments easily? Of course not. At least with your standard little VCR display or something, they've got the filaments on the ends. They possibly still are on these end pins. What do these end pins connect to? Can't see a thing. Or does it go to these ends? See if we can find a short here somewhere. Nope. Yes. It looks a bit like it goes up there. So the filaments of these is 4 wires strung across. They've got a little metal plate on the ends to hold them on. And you can see this bit of metal at the end and then a track going somewhere. So it's the end pins. I guess at least we can check if that voltage looks about right. Because if we get a low filament voltage or a low 30 volts or whatever they run off, that'll be enough to upset them, but chances are this is just old and high hours. But I think we should at least check, because it would have been nice to have these if the displays were good. Stay there. Or not. Hope we plug that power in the right way. Yeah, we've got something happening. Yeah, max, etc. again. Should have 4 volts AC, I think it is, across. Assuming this is the same as a normal fluoro display. 1.7 seems a bit low. And the other ones, well, we can go to our negative rail. Let's go back to DC. Some of these other pins, 24 volt, 4 volts, 6 volts, 20 volts. I'm guessing that might be somewhere where it should be. 24, 25 there. 10. Always depends how they're switched on or what voltage they get. 26 volts. So there's somewhere around the 30 volts, but 1.7 seems awfully low. Go back to AC would help. Yeah, interesting. The hard part is going to be working out where on earth they go, probably to that thing. Normally the transformer or something would have a winding on it, but this would generate its own from the DC. Oh, there's one, I think. So that's that resistor. That's a couple 150 ohm resistors. More likely they're coming out of a winding. I'm guessing out of there. I doubt we're going to have a high value resistor or anything. That's a 47k, 150 I think. Or 180 is that? What colour is it? It's actually 180 ohms I think. So maybe they're in parallel. Since we've got 90. There's no electrolytic capacitors, just a couple of tantalums. Not a lot to fail, really. Though 1.7 does seem low, but without another one to compare it to. I mean, I wouldn't expect transistor to have gone low. It's possibly got a low voltage here somewhere. But $4 volts there. A bit of a random amount. 4 volts there. So that's what's across those tantalums. Seems a little odd. And that's DC. So 12 volts in. What does this actual, assume that's ground, regulator thing do? 4 volts. Is that ground? Never trust anything. Yes, 4 volts on that transistor. And only on one pin. That doesn't seem right. Are we lit up? We're lit up. 4 volts. Yeah, very strange. Now what actually runs? $4 volts. So most of this area seems to contain 4 volts. Now surely if that's a regulator, well we don't know that it is a regulator. Maybe it's a switcher. Maybe that's a chopper transistor runs this coil or something. $12 volts, 12 volts, 12 volts. Oh, and that's going to the filament. One thing I didn't check on the filaments is what they could be at a DC voltage. Oh, they are. There you go. They're at 12 volts. So there's no DC across them, but they are floating at 12 volts. With 1.7 volts of AC across them as well. Well, that question mark is flashing quite brightly, which would suggest this thing's capable of emissions, though I would have thought it would be a bit brighter than that in this light. So I'm none the wiser really whether this thing's shot or not, but chances are it is. Now, if you carefully wiggle them out. Whoop, and I bent the other pins on the other side of it doing that. Not that probably matters, but whoop. And there we have it, a monster. Itron Japan. DC 2015 D2. Oh, there it is, DC 2015 D2. Well, that gives me something else to look up, I guess. I wonder if someone's got some new old stock lying around or something. Not there's a lot I can do with this. So it's Californian made, but the main bits are Japanese. NEC Japan. And whoever made this, or Itron I guess, is the person who, or is the company that made it. And that's probably the back of our filaments. Yeah, they come to the end pin. And the end pin all these ones are addressing, is that each, that's the cathode or anode, I guess, of each display is these bottom pins, and then you can see this matrix, little lines coming in, and they actually go to, like the first dot, I guess, on each one is probably all wired together, and they come out the other end, so maybe that's feeding some of the other, because there's quite a few dots here, isn't there? We have a 5 by 7. So is that 35 or so? How many pins we actually got though? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So that's about right. That's about 36 pins for 35 digits. Because we don't need any decimal points or anything with this, because they're all decimal points. So that would make sense, because we've got 2 filaments taken out of that. I don't think I included the filament count in that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. Yes, there's 19 with the filaments. Assuming that's the same number. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Yeah, so they're both 18. And how many segments we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Is that 20? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, so 20 segments. So I assume there's 10 on each of these. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, so they address each segment. The common cathode, anode, and these are just all the different, or the rows of dots. So the top left dot is connected to top left dot, and then you can multiplex this, which is where you very quickly pulse. So you put the entire row of them on, but you only hit each particular segment that you want the top piece on. So if we've got a number, I don't know, 7 might use that top corner, and 6 and 5 and so on. So each segment that uses a number like that gets that one lit up. So we address that line, turn it on, and we turn all these on for the segments that have it. But if we've got a number 1 somewhere that only uses the row on the back side, that doesn't get switched on that pin down here, but all the others get lit up, and they basically just scan it. So it's just like scanning it, almost like a TV picture tube or something. You're lighting up, in this case, in a normal 7 segment, you'd be lighting each top whole row, because it'd be 1 segment. And I guess in theory in these, if you're only doing numerical stuff, you could do the same. But if you're doing letters and stuff as well, you've got to address each dot. And so each dot is like, a bunch of them will flash on, I guess, more than likely. They've got all these high plus 1 line, so that'll light up on a whole bunch of segments. Then it'll move to the next dot on all on the displays that use it, and so on. So this one would sort of scan across all the rows until it gets to the end. Now, of course, it could scan in any direction, any sequence. It doesn't have to be sequential or anything. You can do them in any order you want, but they're all flashed on very briefly. And our persistence of vision, probably a bit of persistence of, I'm not sure if they use phosphors in these or what they are, but probably some persistence in the light from these plus our vision, and it just looks like it's glowing all the time that way. But very easy to see on this display. All the little wire connections to each and every segment, and these ones I think go through to, there's like a little grid, like a Nixie tube or something. There's actually a grid, very fine grid of wire mesh over the top. Yeah, you can actually see it. There's 2 dots below. You can see a bit of metal bent up, and then there's a grid over the whole lot. Then you've got your filament wires over the, I don't know if they're under or below, under or above that grid. Looks like they might go under it, or do they go above it? Hard to tell. I think they go above. Yeah, that's doing my eyes in, trying to work out what is where. They look kind of higher, so maybe, yes, so maybe the heaters cause the emission between the 2 bits, or from the cathode over to the anode. But yeah, quite a cool bit of equipment really. I just couldn't resist grabbing one just to pull it to bits and have a look. That is a massive display. probably one of the larger ones they made in these fluorescent type displays. I'd hate to think what this display module would have cost in a day, hundreds of dollars most likely. But for someone like the Bureau of Meteorology, it'd be small change for their budget, I would think. But I might still look up, see if I can find any info on this thing, or whether any of those displays are available second hand, because you could just get another one and plug it in, I guess. And if I get a chance, I'll dig out the other one of these. I'm sure I had two of these. I'm sure I saw it in the other shed, and of course everything's moved since then. But chances are it's going to be the same. It's probably why they got rid of them, because they were cooked. But, you know, for a few dollars, I'll always buy a piece of junk like this just to pull it apart and learn a bit about it. I don't know if any of this other stuff's much good for anything. What have we got? An Intel, copyright 1975, a P8256 or L399161, I think that is. Yeah, real-time clock. Oh, it looks like it's actually in a socket, so that can come out. That chip can easily come out. This is another Intel, copyright 1980, I think it is. Is that the same thing? P80, and it's an 8052-basic. Version 1.1. So is that some little basic one-chip microprocessor or something? I wouldn't have a clue. I'll have to look some of this stuff up and put it on the screen. Hyundai memory chip by the look of it. And in 92, so it is a 92 unit by the look of it. Oh, it's got 99, that's display / printer version Y2K. So someone actually bothered to do the Y2K update. I guess I shouldn't laugh, but what a scam that was, really. I don't know if anything stopped working because of the year 2000, but I guess someone assumed it may do. That was a good money spinner for computer techs. 11 for 12 ASSM assembly or something, I don't know. But that'd be an EEPROM, I would assume. Can't see the type number anywhere. I guess we better not peel the label off, because, oh my god, then the ultraviolet light will get in and erase our wonderful EEPROM here. That's so useful now. Oh, come on, where's our number? It's a National Semiconductor. Is it actually an EEPROM or is it a PROM? No, it is an EEPROM. I can see the little window now. Oh, here's the number down here. God, they don't make it easy, do they? I thought they were all out the top. A 27C256. So it's not one of the real early ones. I think these are a lower power than the, were they 2716s or something? There used to be a lot of old EEPROMs. I did salvage a lot of them over the years, and I think they might have gone in the e-waste in the end, into the scrap chip bin. But I don't think I ever got around to programming a single EEPROM ever. Yeah, we've got our 1488, 1489 comms chips, which are socketed so they could be salvaged. 5.120 megahertz crystal. What's a little crystal? What were those things? It's more than just a crystal, but it's a little crystal oscillator module thing. So it's got some drivers or whatever in there. A little sort of self-contained oscillator pack. I think you supply power and get your frequency out of it. Oh, we'll look up what those Intel chips are, but other than that it might just end up in the e-waste. I got my money's worth out of playing with it anyway. But I will be glad to actually get rid of that. It's just been sitting around for a long time. That's very sticky, so it must be to hold the display on. March the 5th, 1992. It's got stamped on it. What was the other code on it? 9213. So I guess, well, we've got about 4 weeks, about 12 weeks in. So yeah, it would be around March the 5th. If there's around 4 weeks per month, which it sort of averages, but it's not always the case. So that date code matches that. And that's kind of a cool piece, but really it's just a piece of landfill now. Might be a cool thing to keep on display somewhere, but not even really recyclable. I guess it could go in the glass to be smashed up with the old bottles and put into a bit of tarmac or bricks or something. But other than that, not much good for anything. Anyway, thanks for watching.